Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for being here today. Madam Clerk, I call this budget session to order, and I think we're turning the floor over to the interim administrator. Administrator Dowse, the floor is yours,
Thank you, Mayor
madam.
Johnson,
Thank you.
and good afternoon, Augusta Commissioners. As you know, we are well underway with our fiscal year 2024 budget season. It has definitely come upon us rather quick. Nonetheless, in accordance with our approved budget calendar, this week was slated for one of our commission work sessions as needed. I felt that it was prudent for us to schedule this work session at this time, specifically for our public safety divisions. Our agenda today is we will first go over a brief overview of our existing budget and how funds are currently allocated. I also want to stress to you what funds make up our public safety departments, as well as offer to you my proposal for expanding the Marshal's Office current litter program. In addition to our RCCI salary increases that you slated or that you directed me to include in this year's budget, we will have a conversation surrounding that. And then never want to forget the fire departments and their capital improvement needs. And last but not least, we will touch on the Richmond County Sheriff's Office and their needs, as well as recap on our budget timeline and what is to come. As you know, the expenditures within our operating budget is broken down by several different funds. The enterprise fund primarily makes up our Augusta Utilities Department, Environmental Services, Public Transit, Augusta Regional Airport, and those are just a few. Our capital projects generally surround our SPLOST phases, all of our SPLOST phases, as well as our TIA projects. And our general fund includes most of your administrative-related departments, such as finance, human resources, information technology, just to name a few. As you see for this slide chart here, our public safety division makes up a little bit more than $77 million of our overall budget, accounting to 41%. So the majority of our funds are expended on our public services divisions. Public safety divisions. Public safety is made up of animal services, emergency management, the Richmond County Marshal's Office, the Richmond County Correctional Institution, better known as RCCI, Emergency 911, the fire department, and our sheriff's office. Of Augusta's more than 3,000 positions, 2,900 of those are full-time. Of that number, 611 are vacant. To further impress upon you the need and the importance of our public safety units, 1,366 of our total authorized positions, or almost 47%, are within public safety. Of that amount, 379 of our 611 vacancies are again within our public safety units, which total a little more than 62%. The Marshal's Office has proposed to us to expand their current litter program, which started in January. It is key to note that they started this program by way of existing resources that were already in place. In an effort to expand this program offering from currently at twice a month to 3 times a week, new personnel was requested and is also being proposed in this year's budget. They are requesting 1 deputy marshal at a salary of $41,000 and 1 corporal a little more than $47,000. The expansion of this program will allow more probationers to work off their court-assigned community service hours and increase the code enforcement presence in matters regarding our homeless efforts and illegal dumping. Through August of this year, the Marshal's Office has utilized more than 100 probationers, collected over 600 bags of trash, over 150 tires, with all a gross weight of 240 pounds of trash that they have been able to pick up off of our streets. Concerning RCCI, on September 5th, the Commission referred to the Administrator as a funding priority for the upcoming budget season, the hiring of post-certified officers. After speaking in depth with Warden Joseph and reviewing the compensation analysis of our Human Resources Department, I am proposing an increase to our correctional officers, starting salaries from $40,000 to $44,000. This 10% salary increase, as you could see, is higher than comparable institutions within comparable markets. Currently, RCCI has 24 authorized correctional detail officers, and six of those authorized positions are vacant. This proposed increase will not come without some side effects. In this particular case, it will create compression issues, not only within RCCI, but also within the Marshal's office. The immediate need to increase the correctional officers' positions to their salaries in amount to more than $113,000, and increasing comparable positions within the Marshal's office will amount to almost $140,000. I propose addressing additional compression issues during the first payroll cycle in July, barring any opposition from our current pay classification and compensation study that is currently underway.
Madam Administrator, are you prepared to take questions, or would you like to continue to the presentation before you address any questions?
I am prepared to take questions.
All right, Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 5th, Commissioner Williams.
Okay, so my question is, and bottom line, I know we're going to propose that we get, some people get raises and what have you, so where is this money coming from?
Through our existing budget, we are working to present to you a balanced budget. And through that process, in addition to increased revenues, as well as offsetting additional accounts, meaning not allowing departments to get all of the requested funding that they have proposed, we are able to fund these increases.
Okay, so what entities are we proposing not to allow to get, are we, I know the mayor sometime back asked.
Commissioner Williams.
I know that, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
I know that the mayor sometime back asked that each department cut so much money or what have you, so are we going to be cutting some budgets or, and then so how are we going to do this?
Well, considering that action was not approved by the body, I was not tasked with cutting our existing budget. So no one's budget is being cut. However, we do have revenue sources that have increased. Those funds are being used in the proposed budget actions that will be presented to you, as well as departments that have requested funds above and beyond what their 2023 budget allocation request or approval was. Those funds may not be approved.
Okay, so what has increased? And so I'm asking some questions, so I won't have some questions later on when you get to the sheriff's department and so forth. So what has increased that will allow us to give more money to people? I mean, I'm all for increases and what have you. It's just that it's just that, you know, when we do it, we can't just give one department something, cut another department. So what has increased that will allow us to move forward with increases?
Sure. We are planning for a 2% growth in our digest, as well as a 3% increase in our sales tax, which is above and beyond our 2023 budgeted figures, as well as our franchise fees have also increased. So those increases to our revenue funds will allow for us to take on additional needs that the government has.
Okay, so 2%, 3% will bring us another, what, $10 million that we can disperse?
No, sir.
How much?
No, no, sir. Do you have a total figure, Donna? What you think, about $4 million? I don't remember the exact amount,
I didn't split it up.
but I'm going to estimate about $4 million.
Okay, so $4 million, and then we had an overage of 4.8 million when you collected taxes and whatever from last year. So are we also using that money in addition to?
Was that a transfer?
You had an overage when we collected taxes. I think you said we had an overage of $4.8 million, I believe. Did we have an overage when we collected budget surplus? Yeah.
Surplus are you referring to 21?
Speaking to the microphone.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Yes, sir.
referring
The
to whatever.
surplus from 21 was rolled into your fund balance.
Okay, so.
Yes, sir.
So are we using some of that money also?
There is no projected use of fund balance in the planned budget presentation, which Ms. Dowse will hand to you in October. Right now, we are not looking to use any fund balance amounts.
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, and somebody can correct me, I think we had some monies that we put back into the rainy day fund or something like that.
That is fund balance, yes, sir.
Okay, so that's just going back. We're not using
It
that.
stays there as your reserve. That is what upholds your credit rating. It allows you to withstand economic downturns. It allows you to recover from natural disasters. That's your rainy day fund, your fund balance, your emergency fund. All those terms are synonymous, and you build those up and keep that in reserve. You don't. It is not best practices to fund your operations out of your fund balance.
I got you. And I'm sorry if it seems like I'm all over the place because I got 9 or 10 things running through my head. I'm trying to remember what we did a year or so ago, 6 months ago, and now we're at budget and we're talking about increases. Like I said, I'm all for increases. It's just that where we get it from, how we're going to do it. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Commissioner from the 5th. There's a couple of the colleagues in the queue, but let's try to keep it brief so we can get the administrator through her presentation. You weren't too long. No, not long at all. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 10th, Commissioner Guilfoyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for the interim administrator. Ms. Dowse, as far as this compression issues addressed the first payroll in 2024, I know that it was caused by the raises that was given out for this federal relief money that was given to us, that we had given to the fire department, sheriff's department, et cetera. Is that right?
No, sir, that is incorrect.
Okay.
The compression issues would be caused as a result of a 10% increase to the RCCI correctional detail officers.
Right. But as far as let's say the fire department, they got issues as far as their pay. Are you aware of that?
No, sir, I'm not aware of any issues regarding their pay.
I'll shoot you an email over that shows the discrepancies in that then. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you might answer my question, but what's the reason for the significant increase from 40 to 44 on the screen? And you said 10%, but that's more than 10%, isn't it?
No, sir.
That's 10%?
That, close enough. Looks like about $8 off. $4,081 would be 10%.
And what was the reason that it had to be 10%?
It did not have to be 10%. In researching Columbus Muskogee, while their starting salary is at $42,500, when we requested compensation data, they generally start their correctional officers around 44 to 45. And so this $44,000 wanted to ensure that, one, we were offering a competitive wage to make our position competitive. The commission has expressed an interest and a need in multiplying the workforce that is out and about from our inmate labor. The warden has also expressed comments surrounding staffers generally leave his organization for about $3,000 to $5,000. So this 10% increase was proposed for that purpose.
Yeah, and your last line kind of hits, I mean, it's a compression issue because not only does this affect the marshal side, it's going to affect the deputy side. I mean, now that they see that increase, I mean, the marshals going up almost 8%, I guess, and they, just because we had to do the RCCI, and I don't know if that, maybe we ought to go to like 8% or 6% or something, because again, that compression issue is going to be a ripple effect where we might not be able to balance the budget if we just agree to the 10%, I guess is my thing, until we see the whole picture. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, Commissioner, on the 5th, you say you got 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Madam Administrator, we had a situation, we have a situation where someone came in and said that everybody making $15 an hour, $30,000 or what have you, showing up as a supplement. So my understanding also, the newer people that are coming in, it affects them a different way. So my question is, and you really, I can come back to this, but I'm going to put this out here right now, is when do we get to a point where everybody accepts, or we accept, that that's a regular part of your pay, and that's not something a commission is going to be able to come back in 2-3 years and say, we're not going to do that. So, so I want the question answered that says this is a regular part of my pay, not a supplement. So are we going to do that with this budget, or how can we do that so that people will know that this is a regular part of my pay and not a supplement?
So, Commissioner, not to get ahead of what I will propose for the overall budget, I do want to let you know that, yes, I am actively addressing our supplement issue. You may recall, under a previous administration, ARP funds were used to the tune of about $3 million a year to supplement employee salaries, to ensure that every employee throughout the city of Augusta earned at a minimum of $15 an hour. That is the reason why you would see on various employees' time card their hourly wage plus their supplement amount. In this upcoming budget season, I am proposing to adjust those figures, not wholly, but partially, to address that issue for 2024. Because in 2025, those ARP dollars will be gone, and so Augusta will have to absorb the remaining balance that is due. It affects employees not only within our general fund, but also our enterprise funds as well, specifically the fire department and maybe others spread out throughout the community, the government.
Well, I just don't want us to lose sight of that. That's a promise that we gave people. That's a promise that we have to follow through on.
Yeah, we're definitely not losing sight on it. It's just that today's focus, what I'm presenting, is public safety. But yes, it is a priority, and as I stated, it will partially be addressed for 2024.
I understand, but it affects folks throughout, and public safety and other folks. When you talk about this supplement, so I just want it addressed, and I know we're going to have to absorb it. So I'll let you go for right now, but that's something that we'll come back to, but it needs to be rectified, because I did not know until somebody brought it to my attention that it was on your paycheck as a supplement.
Well, and I do want to make certain that not only this body, but also the public understands that The supplement is in addition to your hourly wage. So at the end of the day, your bring home is still your bring home pay. It's just how it is tracked in the system and what the funding source is. Those supplement dollars are charged from ARP, whereas your regular salary is charged from the identifying funding source that you are currently employed under. But the employee sees no difference, and it is our plan going forward, even once ARP dollars are expended, that there will not be a difference as well.
And I agree, but when you say supplement, that gives somebody the idea that it can be taken away.
I understand.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Administrator, let's continue. Let's finish your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not know what happened on slide 9. We have went over this presentation multiple times, so I do apologize for the viewing error, but nonetheless, I wanted to make certain that we kept before you the needs of our Augusta Fire Department. In regards to their capital improvement plan, they have projections of, in 2024, their projected revenue amounts to right at $37 million. Their expenditure requests are a little more than $36 million. With that, they will have a operating surplus of about $775,000. That, subtracting from their capital requests, total about $4.5 million, which leaves them a capital shortage of about $3.7 million. To be reminded, they were not included in SPLOST 8. And as a result of that, they will face a revenue shortage as well as a capital shortage for 2024. We've talked multiple times about what implications that will make for 2024, but I just wanted to make certain that I keep that information in front of you. Concerning the Richmond County Sheriff's Office,
I have a question about the fire department. Is it okay?
Commissioner from the 5th, you have the floor, sir.
Okay. Did the fire department say that they had about $18 million in their foundation? They did? So is the foundation?
Wait a minute, wait, before we accept that answer, is there a representative from the, let's make sure we.
yeah, you may be referring to their fund balance, not their foundation.
Okay, foundation, fund balance, what have you, they got about $18 million.
Yes, sir.
So is it restricted in such a way that they can't pay for fire trucks and different things like that? And what is it, what can they pay with it?
Okay, first of all, your fund balance is measured at the end of the year. It is measured at December the 31st. The fire department gets its revenue in the fourth quarter of the year. Their revenue comes from taxes, and their revenue comes from the state in insurance premium tax. So when their fund balance, their reserve is measured, the date of their measurement, they are at their highest level of available resources. So that $18 million has to cash flow them, if you would, through the next cycle until that cash is replenished. Fire department is very unique in the way that their funding stream comes in and the timing of their funding comes in.
Well,
So,
can I just say this?
Sure.
I remember when we gave them $3 million from
ARP.
ARP.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then he came and said that they had $18 million in foundation fund balance or what have you. And now we're saying that they've got about 18 million, but they're asking for $4 million in a budget.
Yes, sir.
Additional, correct?
Right, because if you use fund balance, you have to replenish fund balance. It goes back to what I was saying before. You can't continue to draw down that $18 million at the tune of $3.7 million a year to buy capital. You have to have a reliable funding stream and a regular funding stream in order to fund what you're trying to pay for.
I agree, but if you got 18 million and the sheriff's department needs 5, well, and I may be wrong. Why I need to give you 5 when I need to put 5 over here? And if you take 5 from 18, you still got $13 million over here. So are you saying by law that you got to put $4 or $5 million back over there, or that's just a practice that we do?
Sir, okay, that's a policy that this government has adopted, stating their targeted level for your fund balance, your available reserves. You recall we've had numerous conversations about that.
So you're saying the commission did that?
Yes, sir. And you cannot mix, plus your bonding companies look at that. If your fund balance goes to 0 and you're pulling it out at the rate of 25-30% a year, your bond rating is going to tank.
Well, I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that if we've got 18 million and we're still trying to give them 4 and we need 4 or 5 somewhere else, why can't they be okay with 13 million, 14 million, 15 million?
Your fire protection fund balance is restricted to use for fire protection, because that's how the millage rate was levied, was fire protection. So you can't take monies that were raised for fire protection services and go spend them on other projects.
But this money was not raised for fire protection. This is general money.
The 18 million was, yes, sir, it was.
Okay, the 18 million. So if you spend some of the 18 million,
You have to spend it on fire.
you have to spend it on fire, and that's fine. But what we're talking about is giving them an additional 4 or 5 million, correct?
No, sir, what we're trying to get across to you is that the operations of fire department are, with the level of needs, their millage rate, as I've said before a couple times, their millage rate does not support their needs. That's a conversation for down the road when you set the millage rate, but you have to start talking about it in the budget.
If somebody has 18 million, you're still asking for money. I don't get that. Maybe that's because I'm not a fire person. I don't know. But if you got 18 million and you're still asking for 4 or 5 million, and we need 4 or 5 million somewhere else, I just don't get that. And that was my problem before when we gave them 3 million out of ARP, and they had 18 million. Say again?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, and they had 18 million. That was my problem. Well, we could have spent 3 million somewhere else. And I understand that we didn't put them in the SPLOST or something or what have you, but you're sitting on $18 million. Maybe I'll have a conversation with you and sit down and you can explain to me exactly how this works, but I don't understand that when you got 18 million and you're still asking for 4 or 5. Well, we need 4 or 5 million other places.
Commissioner, can we also include Chief Burton in on that conversation?
Hey, you can include it. Where is it?
He's not here today.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, when we have a conversation.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem at all. I mean, if you spend 4 or 5 million from capital, my question is, why do we as a government have to give you 4 or 5 million to replace the 4 or 5 million that you spent from the 18?
I'm not understanding the give you. It's.
Well, you said they got 18 million. Let me explain. You got 18 million. They need to, if they spend some money, then let's say 18 goes down to 13. But they're still asking for money from the government, are they not?
Asking for permission to use proceeds that are generated for the purposes of fire protection. And the 4.5 that you were referring to.
From the 18 million funding.
That's 1 year.
From the 18 million funding.
Their needs until you get to let's
I'm not
just say the
following you.
next SPLOST phase.
They're trying to use the money from the 18 million funding, correct?
They're not trying to do anything. That's a decision that the body would make. The chief has simply stated his need. It is up to the government to decide at what level that gets funded.
We don't need to give them any extra money then. We don't need to give them any extra money, right?
Commissioner from the 5th. All right, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 7th, Commissioner Frank.
Thank you. So I have, a couple things here. Number one, $20,000 a month in radio equipment is pretty high, it seems like. But what I would like to see before this body makes any decisions, I want to see the expenditures for 2024, because that is where we need to cut some of that to where they'd have more available for capital. That's the first thing. I'd also like to see what is available use, to follow Commissioner Williams' point, what is used for this 18 million? You say fire protection. Well, what qualifies as that? Because I'm not saying we ought to deplete it, but if there is something on this list for 2024, it's just wants. This isn't all needs. This is wants on this list. Let's be honest about it. A boat, maybe they don't need that. Let's look at what they want. Maybe they only need a couple fire pumps to come to 2.5 million, 3 million, 4 million, and then we do take from that 18 million. That's the discussion we need to be having up here. So again, what can we use the 18 million for? And all the expenditures for 2024 line itemed out, because let's see if we can cut some of their line items to where they have more for capital use.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner from the 7th. Madam Administrator, let's continue, please. I think you got a few more slides to get through.
Okay, the Richmond County Sheriff's Office. The sheriff currently has numerous vacancies within his office and has requested a raise plan for his certified deputies. Of the amount requested, we are proposing $1.9 million to address his certified deputies, as well as the competitive salaries that will allow him to offer a more marketable wage within our government. This funding is proposed to address salary increases for his road patrol officers as well as his investigators.
Does it address any needs from the sheriff's detention center, the Webster Beach Detention Center for his jailers?
These are not facility, oh, you mean the jail employees? Mm-hmm. No, sir. This just addresses his road patrol officers and his investigators.
All right, thank you. All right, Commissioner from the 7th, you're in the queue, sir.
I would also like to note that this plan has been fully flushed out and communicated to the sheriff, who is in agreement with it.
Oh, good. All right.
Okay, the only question I had is how many are certified deputies?
So he has 265 road patrol officers. I don't know the number of his officers that are certified. Oh, he said all of those are
265?
certified, 265.
All right, thank you.
All right, Commissioner from the 5th, you back in the queue, sir.
I think he asked me a question because when I talked with the sheriff, you said, could the sheriff come up real quick?
Sheriff? Thank you again for being here, Sheriff. All right, Commissioner from the 5th.
So where, with 1.9 million, where is that going to take our road patrol salaries?
Just over $50,000 to start.
Just over 51 to?
Probably 50.5.
50.5.
50,500, somewhere along in there.
Okay, and I think when we talked, you said road patrol people, we're putting detectives in here too?
Yes, sir.
For compression issues.
For the compression issue.
For compression issues?
Yeah, because right now, currently, the investigators are at 49.5. So, of course, if the road patrol goes to 50 and 5, then the investigators have to go up.
Is that just a base salary? Do they make overtime something or whatever?
They can, and unfortunately, like the mayor's saying, in the jail, that's where most of the overtime is being done. But on the road patrol, because we are short on the road patrol, then they are offered overtime too. But we have a budget for overtime too, and plus that's what we use our lap salaries to cover overtime also.
Okay, is that essentially what you mean, road patrol detectives? I know I see it's $5 million. So
That,
I mean, if you could sneak something else in here, what would you do?
And I tell you, Commissioner, to be fairly honest, and me and Administrator Dowse and my team have discussed this. Ideally, when we first looked at it and we spoke to some of the commission members and said, what would it take for our whole agency to get where we want to be? And that's where the $5 million ask came from. We did it across the board throughout the entire agency, and that was our number. Now, of course, we know the challenges that the commission is having, this government is having. So they asked, what can we do the bare minimum to try to stay competitive? And this is the number we landed on. It is not our ideal number, of course, because you can't take care of everybody. But if you're trying to take care of the majority of the people where we feel that the need is the greatest to attract talented people and keep them to this area doing the job that we do, this is the number that we landed on. But of course, like I said, it's not the number, but we know we can't give a perfect number. We know this government is not in a position to give us a perfect number at this time.
Okay, so we're competitive with Columbia County, Aiken County, Burke County.
We will be. But again, the thing that we did when we did 3 or 4 years ago, Columbia County is built in their mechanism where they get 2 raises every year regardless. So even if we get competitive right with Columbia County where we are now, in a year and 2 years, we're going to be right back behind them because they get 2 raises a year every year. So we're just going to be competitive for 2024.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Sir.
Thank you, Commissioner from the 5th. Chair recognizes Commissioner Wayne Guilfoyle from the 10th.
Mr. Sheriff, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, sir.
Sheriff, I see this $1.9 million funding proposed to address salary increases for road patrol officers and investigators. You got 238 vacancies. I thought your biggest challenge was acquiring new deputies, new employees. What is your plan to overcome that challenge?
Are you talking about in the detention center, sir?
Detention center, getting people on the road, filling these vacancies.
Well, again, this will address on the road patrol where our make us the competitive salary of agencies equal to our size. When we're talking about the jail, again, that is another challenge. But like I mentioned to some of the commissioners yesterday, because we're a consolidated government, we're not a traditional sheriff's office where like Fulton County and Cobb County, when their people are hired, they're hired to be jailers. That's the job they went for. When people come here, 95% of them want to go to the operations side. They just have to start in the jail, but they don't want to stay in the jail. So within 18 to 24 months, everybody goes into jail, rotates out to the road patrol if they can pass the certifications. So that is where the bulk of my officers are or will be in 18 to 24 months, which makes us, like say, right at competitive with our neighboring county right now. But right now, you know, we're at 43, and you got Columbia County right at 50. And for the amount of work, and I've said it before, Columbia County answers 86,000 calls for service. We answer 423,000, and we keep a 1,000-bed inmate facility. It doesn't compare. So that's why we're just trying to be competitive.
Nothing compares on that. I understand that, but I know you're going to be facing some challenges getting new deputies to come on board with the Sheriff's Department. I was just questioning, so we don't have to go through this again, is how we're going to overcome hiring new deputies to come in.
And unfortunately, Commissioner, the hard answer is you're going to have to go through it again. Because, like I said, this is the number that we can make do with. That is the number. This is not the number that we need. But we know this body is not in a position at this point to give us that, and we're trying to be good partners with the government, and trying to stay competitive, but also trying to work within this government and trying to work with the administrator too. I mean, that is what we're trying to do. Now, I'm not going to put you in a position where I say I have to have $5 million. That is what will make us whole to be where we need to be. But I know we don't have it, and we're willing to try to ride this out until we get in a better position where we can get there.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to remind my colleagues in next year's Georgia General Assembly, there's going to be some things to try to grow our Georgia State Patrol. So we're going to have another competitor that's potentially going to be looking at some of our deputies and what we pay. So this is a very important topic, very important issue. So back to you, Madam Administrator.
Thank you. So to recap and in closing, The administrator's proposed budget will be presented to you on October 17th. I'll take these comments today, as well as continue to work to balance the budget. I wanted to bring before you the public safety matter because they are the largest portion of our budget. As I told you, they amount to 41% or about $78 million. I feel that we have come far, and I appreciate all of the departments and offices and agencies that have worked with me thus far. Definitely do not want to take anything away from the finance department. Long nights and hours, they are greatly appreciated. We have slated October 26th as a proposed commission work session if needed. This will give you what I would consider to be time to review the proposed budget that would be presented on the 17th and then meet on the 26th with any questions or concerns that you may have. And then the remainder of the calendar is outlined here before you. Mayor Johnson and Augusta Commission, that concludes my budget work session presentation for you today with a focus on public safety. Are there any additional questions?
Yes, ma'am. I see a few colleagues in the queue. We're coming to you. Just give us a second. All right, Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 7th, Commissioner Branham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administrator Dallas, as far as all the recommendations that you gave us today, you support?
I do.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
those are all my proposed recommendations for what will be included in the budget presentation that you will see on the 17th.
Okay. And before the 17th, will you have met with all department heads and heard their concerns and given them feedback before we see that budget on the 17th?
So I have already met, if I have not directly, my deputy administrator as well as the finance department has already met with every department, even many NGOs, our non-governmental offices, as well as our subsidiary agencies that support Augusta. So we have already had those conversations. They will not see my proposed budget before you do. However, if there are areas that directly affect them, then yes, I will have those conversations separately. Please note that those conversations will not all be in agreement, as I will also be proposing some cuts to our positions that has never come across as favorable, but nonetheless, in an effort to balance the budget that I'll be presenting to you, that will be proposed. I do not want to add to the bottom line, so for any new positions that will be created, it will be offset by a decrease in one of the 600 vacancies that we currently have on the books. So again, I will be meeting with those departments that will be directly affected, but please note that that may not be a amicable conversation.
I understand that. As far as whether some nonprofits are engaged in the budget this year, or the discussion with the Destination Augusta basically taking a chunk of money where we had approved in the past for festivals and things, like, is that going to be done in time to be proposed?
Absolutely. That is already slated in my proposal, as well as we've had several conversations with Destination Augusta. So while they will still have time to fine-tune the details of the plan, the funding will already be, or it is my hope that the funding will be approved. So yes, that is included.
Okay. And then I guess my last two questions is, when you do the administrator proposed budget presentation, will we do that during a commission meeting, or will we have a special, like, 1 o'clock meeting before the commission meeting?
No, it is during the commission meeting. So
Okay.
it will be a lengthy presentation.
Okay. That's all I have right now.
October 17th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You got it. Chair recognizes Commissioner Williams from the 5th.
Yeah, I've been sitting here thinking about what the sheriff said, that most departments get a couple of raises, during the year. And so that basically, right now, we're playing catch up, and then they'll move out, and then next year we'll try to do something to try to catch up again. I just want to, you can answer from your seat, Mr. Sheriff. Sheriff Roundtree, they usually give them what, 2%, 3% raises during the year, what do they usually do? At our neighboring counties, you said they usually get a couple of raises during the year, so they usually get what, another 3%? My question is, should we consider going above and beyond, what the ask is here today when it comes to our sheriff deputies and detectives? And should we consider another 3% because next year we're going to just be playing catch up again, and then, folks are going to move out ahead of us or what have you. I really think that Augusta, Georgia, we're the big dog in the area and that we should act that way. If you want to play with the big boys, you got to act like a big boy. I think that we should be leaders in public safety and the fun or enjoyment or whatever it is that you think about here in the area, the CSRA. I want to ask, and it'll just be something, I guess, on the side, not necessarily your proposal, what have you, but what would it cost us to do another 3% in this budget for those deputies and detectives and what have you? Could you do that for us? Work that up for us, ma'am. 1.9 million.
Commissioner, are you asking in addition to the
What you-
$1.9
what you-
million
what you
that we're
already
offering,
doing.
3%
Yes, ma'am.
on top of that?
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to state, and yes, we could run those pro forma numbers for you. I would like to state that I am also proposing in this year's budget a cost of living adjustment for our entire workforce.
Okay.
For those that would qualify, that is.
So how much?
A 3% increase.
Okay, so that would pretty much do what I'm asking.
No, because these individuals, because their increase is far greater than 3%, they would then not qualify for the cost of living adjustment.
You saying the sheriff's department folks would not?
No, these individuals, the ones that would receive the $1.9 million benefit, they would not qualify for the 3% cost of living adjustment. But his jailers, individuals in human resources, in all other facets of our government would qualify.
I'm a little mixed up. I mean, is that a state rule or is that our rule?
No, that would be part of my proposal for funding purposes.
That they not get the 3% cost of living?
That's correct.
I don't necessarily think that's a good thing.
Okay.
So just look at the numbers. Maybe we can do it, maybe we can't. I'm not sure as far as an additional 3% or what have you. We could put it out for consideration to the commissioners, maybe up, down, what have you. But I think that rule that people wouldn't be eligible is not a good rule.
Well, and keep in mind that I will be presenting the entire budget on October 17th. And so once you see the entire budget, then any changes that you would like for me to make as far as increasing one line item and decreasing another, you will be able to see those specifics in front of you.
I see, but some practices we do as a government, you lengthen one leg and you cut the bottom off the other leg and the person's still limping. It doesn't, I don't understand. Okay.
All right, thank you, Commissioner from the 5th. Chair recognizes Commissioner Pulliam from the 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Administrator Dowse. My question goes back to the fund balance, and this is because I don't know. Does every department have to have a designated amount in their fund balance? Is there something that...
No, ma'am. Every department does not have a fund balance. So according with the various funds within our government, so for instance, there's a general fund balance and then enterprise fund balance and so on and so forth. So it's broken down based upon those funds.
Okay. But we don't designate this department has to have this amount, that department has to have that amount.
Well, the commission approved, not for each department, no. but the commission has approved the days amount of funding that they want to see, that this body wants to see. And that recommendation was taken from our auditing agency. This X amount of days is what's recommended for a government of our size to have on hand in our fund, just to ensure that in case of any emergencies, also known as a rainy day fund, that those dollars would be available. So for X amount of days, we will be able to sustain our government at existing operating levels based upon what funds are in our fund balance.
Okay, so my question stems from the fire department and the 18 million, just because that was the department where the fund balance was actually stated. So they don't have to have 15 million or 5 million.
Okay.
It can be any amount?
Okay, I can see how the terms department and fund are kind of, it's a little confusing right now. The fire department is the only department in the fire protection fund. So that's the reason we refer to it as having a fund balance. Other departments such as the finance department, the administrator's office, the clerk of court, the superior court, those are all departments that are in the general fund, and so the general fund has a fund balance. But the fire departments, it's a little bit different the way it works.
But is that the only department that operates in that manner?
No. 911 is a special revenue fund, and it is also a department. Utilities is an enterprise fund. It is also a series of departments. Stormwater, there are a lot of them.
Okay.
But
All right.
the one that's causing the confusion right now is fire.
Okay, and we'll talk offline just
Okay.
because I want to have a better understanding. And then my last question goes back to a comment that Commissioner Frantum made regarding seeing the expenditures for 2023. Have we reviewed each department's expenditures, and is that available for everyone on the dais?
Yes.
As we requested, okay.
All expenditures throughout our entire budget have been reviewed, and yes, you will receive a very large book of all of our expenditures as well as revenues for across all funds.
Okay, just like we did last year?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Madam Administrator, does that complete your presentation?
Yes, sir.
All right. Madam Clerk, I consider this budget work session hereby closed. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here today. Have a great afternoon.
Let the record show.